This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
Hello. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark, Pod Maverick presents Group Therapy Live. This is Kirk Henderson. I am hosting our secondary post-game show. If you're listening on an audio stream, be sure to make that you listen to Josh and I discuss the Dallas Mavericks falling to the Phoenix Suns 114-113. Those of you who are in the YouTube live here, you can join the show by clicking on the StreamYard link. We can talk a little basketball. You can get off your takes. You can tell me why I suck. That's probably one of my favorite groups of fans. Now, nobody really outright argues with me. I've been doing this, a live show, for the better part of like 4 years now, and very few people have actually told me that I suck, but I'm still waiting for someone to really come at me. We have a lively group in the chat right now in YouTube Live. So if you're listening on an audio stream later, I can't encourage joining the chat and joining the YouTube more, because here's the thing about sports, guys. We watch sports not only for the collective up and down, but we do it so we can watch together. Like, watching sports with people and enjoying the bullshit together is extremely important. And in today's day and age, we don't get a lot of opportunities to touch grass in the sense where we can hang out with other people who share the same interests as us. This is close. I run this show, but I am not a professional. We are fans. And more importantly, I have started to consider everybody that joins this show fairly regularly friends. Speaking of friends, I got two of them waiting in the chat. Coming up first is my man, Brian. What's going on, Brian?
Dude, I'm mellowed out a bit now, but that loss was such bullshit, man. Like, from beginning to end, another flat start. Luka and Kyrie both came out and played awesome to start, except for the turnovers. But yeah, no, another flat start for reasons we don't need to talk about the center or the end of the game. I want to talk about one particular stretch of the game where the game is absolutely lost, and the issue that is starting to plague this team that is becoming more and more injured and has less and less depth, and has the coach outwardly complaining about the bench stinking at the end of the game. What the fuck was Kessler Edwards doing on the court at any point?
I don't know, man. I don't know if this is like relationship manipulation stuff where have you ever done things to like try to prove a point in business, friendship, significant other? This is where I think Kid was trying to prove a point about the bench, but I don't know why. We have one regular commenter lately, very enjoys participation. Is Seeker Man is his handle in the comments, and he's like, the Mavericks need to make a change. I don't know if I agree with that, because it's only been 9 games, but I will tell you, a kid making a plea like this, he's saying the same damn thing.
Well, the change that I would like to see made is maybe you don't play like your third best bench guy, probably your second best bench guy on this night, 9 minutes, and play Omax and Kessler for like a combined 5, where Kessler managed to he was so destructive in the minute and a half that he played. How are you a -4 in less than 2 minutes of game?
I mean, it can be done.
Well, we saw how it was done. It was back-to-back possessions of they've left you wide open. We need you to give us something. And ridiculous break. And then a nervous catch and turnover because he wasn't expecting Luka to pass the ball at the last second when that has literally been his MO for his entire career, passing the ball at the last possible second, which is why you need to have your hands up and your feet set and be ready if you're the corner shooter. So you have that. You have Omax giving all the effort in the world and smoking wide open layups, right?
Just the one, but it's like he's such a.
But that one, man.
That one. I mean, in a 1-point game, you're thinking about it.
And the reason why I'm thinking about the Kessler thing so much in particular is because that was right after Luka and Kyrie went on that run to tie the game. We have the technical free throw that Kyrie missed that would have given us the 1-point lead. I think our first lead of the game, it would have been. And that's when you throw Kessler out there in that moment. I didn't even know he put him out there until he caught the ball to take the first shot. I saw the entire timeline go Kessler Edwards at the same time. We all realized he was out there at the same time. And that in that moment, that felt like, okay, this is a huge momentum swing because we've just given them 2 possessions and they've scored on each of them. And it went from a 75-75 game to like an 81-75 game in 40 seconds. And that, in all reality, is probably where the game was lost, even though the ending was ugly and bullshit for like 1,000 different reasons.
No, right. That's and I you know, I talked about this. Like I led with the ref stuff because I feel like I objectively have to because it's the most recent thing we saw, but that's just not that's not the main reason they lost.
It's not the only reason, but boy, was it there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, that's not the only reason. That's why I didn't want to come up here and also do ref stuff because I was doing ref stuff all over my timeline.
Mm-hmm. Gafford blew a rebound that was in his hands. That might I wouldn't have sealed the game, but it might have
put both hands on it and it just fell out. No, see, I understand where Seeker is coming from. That is the argument for the first game. Mm-hmm. The problem. It sure does, and I will be watching Arcane season 2. I will be binging.
I got 2 more episodes to go. I've never seen it until now.
Look, you're in for a wild ride. That's a fun show. But to Seeker's point, or against Seeker's point, what Seeker said about Nurkic not being able to be the best big on the floor, that was the case for the first game, and we allowed that to happen, and that is why we lost. In this game, all Gafford had to do was be as good as Dwight Powell, and we win this game going away. If Gafford was as good as Dwight Powell, we win this game. Dwight Powell thoroughly outplayed him on both ends.
Pretty shocking. Yeah.
Embarrassing. But it's not even that shocking because Dwight was just doing the things he's already good at. We still gave up a bunch of rebounds, offensive rebounds in the possessions he was out there, but we knew we were going to do that. He still gave us the DHO stuff at the top of the arc, which for some reason we won't do with like our 2 best bigs. That's whatever. But he gave us that. He gave us the roll gravity and the finishing and the hustle offensive rebounding and the switching out on guards and defending in space. He locked up Bradley Beal twice, like in ridiculous fashion, and then got a charge to close one of those possessions.
That charge was cool, man.
Because it came right after he locked Bill up right at the arc.
And just to be nostalgic a little bit, that's part of how the Mavericks got to the Western Conference Finals in 2022 or 2021-22 because Powell was their only big. Like Maxey was ass, and Powell was just like a scrambling madman and made it work.
Yeah, Maxey was able to hold up in the paint against Aiden because Aiden is super soft, and both he and Dwight were able to switch out onto Phoenix's wings when we needed to. And it was, it was Book, and then it was Mikal Bridges who couldn't do anything with the ball at the time, still can't, but couldn't do anything with the ball at the time. So we were able to make it work that way. And it's like, dude, Daniel Gafford, you're a much better athlete than this Dwight Powell. You should not be getting cooked in open space the way you do. You should not be giving up defensive rebounds the way that you do. You should not be getting moved around in the paint. You should not be getting thrown out of bounds by Royce O'Neal, even if he did come at you from a blind side. Like, this wasn't even one of his worst nights this season. And he was still so noticeably like one of the biggest problems when he was out there. And I stand firmly on this. He is a big part of the reason why we start all these games flat. Like I've argued with guys like from just random Twitter bozos like me to people like Steve Jones and Nekias Duncan. Like, dude, I get that Derek Lively plays more minutes. I get that Derek Lively is usually the one that closes, but we start flat and it kills us because we can't play from behind. And Gafford is in there every single time.
Well, and that's what's so weird. Like hearing Jason Kidd talk about this, and it's like he gives you like big Tim Robbins vibes where he's wearing the hot dog suit, and it's like we're still trying to find the guy.
Yeah, we're looking for who did this, and it's like, brother, what do you mean our bench is ass and you played Spencer Dinwiddie?
It's you big mega mind motherfucker. What are we talking about?
And Omax and Kessler got in the game before Quinn. Like I'm still not off the Quinn Grimes thing. I think that is the main conflict.
I don't know how to talk about that rationally because this looks like
yeah, because I feel like I'm talking about Christian Wood all over again. Except I know this guy is good.
Yeah. Wood was terrible, but Wood was such an offensive force that you're like
that is like, dude, he might be able to give us something as bad as he is on offense, right? Mm-hmm. It's I don't know, man. It's like to come out and then to drop that dude by name is like super sucker shit. Like I do not understand that. Dropping him by name, talking about you need to make shots when he made a shot and Omax and Kessler didn't tonight. Like I don't. You're right. It's him holding the step back or the missed three from the other game against him. But dude, that was 2 games ago. You can't ask these players to come out here and have a next game, next play mentality, and you can't do that as a coach. You can't do that. You can't give Jaden Hardy 3 minutes, you know what I'm saying, after a so-so performance and let Spencer run around out there for whatever the fuck for 28 minutes and just doing whatever. 28 and then put Najee on the bench and let him close.
28 minutes. Spencer Dinwiddie is crazy.
Dude, as someone who thinks that Spencer has been playing pretty good this year, especially on defense, considering what we know him to be, you can't justify this. You can't justify this. And these games matter. I don't care how upset people get at me for it. These games matter. These losses matter. This is the Western Conference, not the East. You have to stack wins and stack them when you can, particularly early, especially if you're trying to build momentum to get to a home court seed, which is what we want. Especially if you, Luka Doncic, want to win an MVP, you better stack some games early so they can start mentioning your names. Because even though they're doing it ugly, even though that team is terrible, even though he's riding the plus-minus train because that bench is awful, Jokic is winning games against these bum teams. He's fine. He's doing it in overtime, all types of ugly, nasty ways.
Well, Vucevic also only gets to play with their starters.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about with the plus-minus train, because he only ever plays with at least 2, usually 3, at least, of the other starters, and he never carries like a full bench lineup like other stars have to. And so that's why I'm not a big believer in that Jokic plus-minus shit, but that's a conversation for another day. It's just, Luka, dude, you need to, you were awesome on defense today. Your offense let the Suns off the hook in the first half, and those 5 or 6 bad defensive possessions that you had, that let them off the hook. You were great, except for those 5 or 6 possessions, and we needed you to be great all the way through. And he was pretty good, but when Kevin Durant is making shots like that, pretty good doesn't cut it. Yeah. Even as Kyrie was also really good tonight.
Pew, pew, pew. I'm tired.
Yeah. It's a Friday night. I'm about to have a drink and get in the bed pretty soon.
Oh, man. All right. I'm going to bring up Glenn and then my man Sudarshan, who is visiting in town from across the world. He would just watch the Mavs game. Seeker, don't insult me. Come on. I watch more basketball than you. It is my partial job.
Oh, boy. What's he doing?
Just telling me I need to watch more schemes when talking about Vujacic, Randall, and Ingram, 3 of the most losery homies that have played basketball in the NBA in the last several years. They're not bad. It's just they're not that guy. And being, just what I have learned watching NBA level basketball over the years is there are guys who are playoff made and that there are guys who are not. I'm not necessarily in disagreement that some of the guys that the Mavericks have may not be. And I think that's why, when we talk about roster changes, I'm not super into it through 9 games, but I think I at least have to be open-minded to it because the Mavericks made a trade deadline move for 7 straight years. That's pretty important, even if it's a minor thing. But it's just I'm not willing to give up on everything with regards to a team that made it to the NBA Finals. That's all. No, Seeker, I've watched these guys play. They're not good. That's all. It's not a homer take. Good, bad players who play on bad teams. Why are they bad? it's it's because they're not good enough. That's all. Like, it's real simple. Now, certain guys boost themselves when they get to the Mavericks, and I think that's a valuable argument, but I'm not particularly interested in guys that are on massive contracts that boost you towards or over that second apron. And that's just the thing that I think about because of the math. I hope most fans don't give a shit about that because nobody wants to be an accountant and a Mavs fan. The chat does not agree with you. I promise. That's the thing. Okay, friends of the show, Brian's going to go and play that piano in the background and have a drink. Then I'm going to bring up my friend Glenn King. We'll talk soon, guy.
Yes, sir. Peace.
All right. Coming up next, Glenn from the West Coast. What's going on, brother?
Greetings, Kirk. Las Vegas, not exactly the West Coast, but good evening.
The time zone, the easiest time zone to watch sports like a human being.
Yeah, except for 4:30 is a little bit of an awkward time to start a game. I really wasn't finished my work day, wasn't ready to start drinking. Mavericks games are less fun if you're not on some kind of substance, I believe. So you got that. First off, though, and I got a list of stuff to get to today. I'll try to be quick with it. But first off, thank you, because I'm not angry. I'm not angry anymore. I was angry, and then I saw your tweets, and then I said, "Oh, he's covered it for me." Your anger superseded my anger, and so now I'm calm about the ending sequence of the game.
Tell me why.
Because you covered it all already. We got screwed. The referee, all the things that you said are absolutely correct. The fact that they couldn't hit it on a replay, still couldn't see what we all saw, is amazing. But that's Tony Brothers, right? Like, that's what that asshole does to us.
I love it.
All right, getting to my list here. So let's see. This is what Kid does. Okay, so I mean, I agree with you, and I know that you and Brian know a lot more about basketball than I do.
No, this is not knowing. This is just sports.
But it's true because I didn't grow up playing basketball. But one thing I believe in is I understand kind of the Jason Kidd method. It's going to be frustrating, but he likes to experiment with different rotations at the beginning of the season to see what he's got. And so 5-4 is about what I expected, even though we should be 7-2 because we should have won the 2 Phoenix games. But Grimy, for example, I think he's just experimenting with Grimy. Maybe he hasn't seen what he wants to see in practice yet, but he hasn't seen, like, he did the same thing with Najee the first few games, I think, and then Najee started showing him stuff, and now all of a sudden he's got mostly confidence in Najee.
I like Najee.
I love Najee. We've talked about this. But he played Dinwiddie instead of Najee, and I think the issue there is just confidence. He doesn't have he's got the confidence, I feel like, that Dinwiddie is big shot Bob, right? Remember Robert Horry?
Yeah, of course I do. Like,
of course, right?
Annoyingly influential NBA player.
Right. So you felt you know, if you were the coach who was, I think, Rudy Tomjanovich at the time, right? You had the confidence, or we used to with Houston and then with the Lakers. He had the confidence that when you need a big shot, you can get it to Horry open and he'll make it. I think that's how he feels about Dinwiddie. I feel that way about Dinwiddie.
You got to admit that's a lot of Dinwiddie.
Yes. 28 minutes, 3 points. Sure. I'm with you.
2 assists, 3 points, 1 steal.
Right.
A lot of Dinwiddie.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I think the reason that he's in there is that Kid believes if you need a 3-point shot, or, you know, when you get that big moment, Dinwiddie will come through, and we don't know yet about Najee, and we certainly don't know that about Grimy. He'll always be Grimy to me because there was an episode of The Simpsons where remember the one with Frank Grimes, and they called him Grimy, and
yes.
Yeah, it's great episode. All right, you want me to keep going with the list here?
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay. Gafford. Now, I'm sorry, Brian. I disagree. I think Gafford, first off, statistically speaking, what did Gafford get? 7 boards, 15 points. Was it on 6 of 7 shooting?
But only 4 defensive boards.
Okay,
That's brutal.
Sure. No, I look. You cannot question his effort, right?
No, I think he plays really hard. I just think he plays really dumb every now and again.
Sure. He's what he's supposed to be. We got him to be the backup for Lively, and he's doing it great, except for that at the moment, we don't have Lively. And if you're expecting more than what he is, then you're going to be disappointed. He's better than Powell, though. Come on, stop that. Stop talking about.
Powell, yeah, I mean that's where I think this is actually part of my like reflexive frustration is I had to watch Powell start and play so many games.
Yes, me too.
Because it's like it's not even a Powell thing; it's more of a Willie Cauley-Stein, JaVale McGee, Christian Wood. Who was that guy that played at UCLA that was like 7'4" that was mega garbage. Like so many of the Mavericks centers that have played have been so bad. And it's like, whoo, brother. Like, not even like bad. It's just it's like when Luka Doncic is serving you up, like people will forget this, but Willie Cauley-Stein shot 60% on dunks.
Yeah. Well, and Powell was hitting 75% mostly dunks. But, I mean, I'll never get over. I took my 83-year-old.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I took my 83-year-old dad to a Mavericks game a couple of years ago. Right before we got it was the season before we got Gafford and Lively. So it was the Indiana Pacers, and I was trying to explain to my dad that now that we have Kyrie and Luka playing together, this team is going to start going upwards. And then they embarrassed the fuck out of me. Watching this was against the Indiana Pacers. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a dunk fest. No one was stopping Indiana from scoring at will from 2 feet away from the basket. And so, never having to see Powell as a starter again is wonderful to me. And so maybe I get excited when I see Gafford in there to think of the same thing you did, that this is way better than Willie Cauley-Stein, Satnam Singh, who never actually got in very many games, if he got in any games at all. All those guys. It's so much better. Right.
It is. I will just say that like the kind of criticisms that we're eliciting upon these guys where it's like, please grab a defensive rebound are within bounds. So it's like, if we're mad at the Mavericks centers so Dwight Powell and Daniel Gafford tonight grabbed a total of 9 defensive rebounds between them out of the Mavericks 31. Luka grabbed 7. Like the team did. I actually don't hate the team rebounding night in and night out. It's like a guy like Najee Marshall brings it. No, wait. Yeah. And Kyrie kind of is a shockingly consistent rebounder for a guy who's 6'2". But as the chat is like kind of repeatedly beating down upon this, they shouldn't have to be. Kyrie shouldn't be one of your best rebounders. That's kind of the point that I think everybody is making.
If you had Lively in the game, if you had Lively doing what he's supposed to do, he would have gotten those rebounds, the ones that were just out of the reach of Gafford, or the one that went right through his hands near the end of the game.
Right through his hands. Like if you're like looking for a reason to be like, all right, send this guy to Mars, that one is the one. That was such a bad, like that's worse than the Tony Brothers thing, because like they got the ball and they scored, right? I feel like I'm right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It's been a while. I need to go back and look at the box score. Anyway, it doesn't ultimately matter. That was one of multiple plays where it's like, Mavericks, what are you doing?
Yeah. All right, next on my list, because I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time here, Luka. So first off, I'll point out that I once again won money on Luka because I waited until the near the end of the first half to make the bet. So he seems to start slow, so then the over goes down, and then it's attainable. So it was originally 31.5, and then I got in at 29.5. And so there you go, a victory by a half point. My point about Luca, though, that I wanted to mention is that so you're listening to the announcers talk when Luca starts grabbing his ankle or his leg or whatever is pretty funny because they fall for it, and we who watch every night know that there will be a dramatic moment where Luca goes into the blue medical tent every night, limping, and then comes out and finishes the game, and we're all supposed to cheer as if he played on one leg.
I know. It's just like, I'm sorry. Sorry. This is a great comment from Juicebox. Fuck the separate second apron. Look at the Celtics in the next. Sorry, we're talking about like cap stuff in the chat. Cap stuff is such a boring podcast. Go ahead, but we still got to talk about it. Say what you said again.
We are used to Luca's dramatic injuries every single night. The announcers who from the national team are not. They fall for it.
I mean, look. Doris Burke is not my cup of tea. There we go. That's all I'll just say. Because it's just like, lady, if you watch Luca, you'd know that he's always grabbing something and he's always pissed off. That's like the two things that you deal with Luca, right?
Absolutely. Right. Okay. Just a couple more things on my list here. Have we figured out what the Lively mystery injury is? What happened?
No one will tell me, but a sprained shoulder during warm-ups. There's like 4 things I can possibly think of. Like, did he run into the basket stanchion and throw his elbow into it? Did he try to dunk and miss and like clang it off the back of the rim and do something here? Did he go for the world's most outrageous high five? I can't possibly tell you, but it's awful. It's frustrating. And like one of my friends who is not a Mavs fan pointed this out last year, and I told him he was wrong, but I think he might be right. Lively strikes me as a guy who's going to be odd injury prone because of how wildly athletic he is. You know?
Yep. I'm starting to worry about that.
No, I'm not worried, but I think you build it into the expectations with him. You know, you got to have a decent backup. So it's like if the Mavericks would do the thing where if we think Lively is more prepared than Gafford, you have to play Lively significantly more minutes. And they're just not doing that when he's in. So
I think if we played Indiana 10 times this year without Lively, we would lose all 10. It's just one of those things.
The Pacers are a maddening matchup for the Mavericks.
Right. Yep.
Because they basically are like, Luka, are you going to guard somebody for 42 of the 48 minutes? And he's like, I'm not sure if I'm going to.
Right. So. Right. Last thing on my list. This is just a gut feeling that I have, but I wanted to get your thoughts.
Sure.
I feel like maybe Najee is part of the Mavs mentorship program, and that maybe Kyrie has taken him under his wing, because I'm starting to see little things resembling Kyrie in Najee's game. Am I way off?
I mean, Kyrie, like Najee's playmaking ability is probably the thing that I understood least about his game. I knew he was tough. I knew he could hit or was willing to take open 3-pointers. But I didn't watch. I probably watched 15 Pelicans games last year, and they were just such a peculiar team because they had so many injuries on and off, where it's hard to get a read on guys. But Josh talked about this in one of our shows where Josh is sort of staring at the idea of Najee starting at the 4 over PJ. And I think that's been actually fairly popular take in our YouTube chat. Not Najee at 3, but the Najee at the 4. Just for ball handling. And again, I want to credit the people in the chat that have mentioned this, because there's probably like 5 of them in there that are regularly commenting. And the handles, as Raymond notes, like the handles just opens up something. The ability to attack off the dribble confidently is important because you got Luka, you got Kyrie. Clay is extraordinarily underrated in this regard.
Yes.
He made a nice pass to Gafford on a drive and dish. And then you throw in Gafford, or then you throw in Najee, and it's like, well, I mean, he's pretty good at this. So it's tough to really get to. I'm trying to think the right way to phrase this. I don't know what I would do if I were a kid, because it's like you want different options off the bench, but I think it's how you distribute the minutes. And because we've only played 9 games and 3 of those games have now featured Maxi, Lively, and PJ on the bench, it's like, well, I want to be very critical. I mean, I am very critical, but it's hard for me to to say, okay, these are the things that should happen after only like 5 games. So
I like the idea of him in the second line of guys where you've got Luka takes his first break, and basically you've got Kyrie and then Najee then doing the ball handling, and both of them are guys who will go to the hoop. In the manner that Luka should be doing. Which, by the way, I don't think I saw Luka make 2 shots in a row all night tonight. And I agree with you that the problem is that he's not getting any easy shots anymore. He's not getting the ones. It's so easy for him to bang his way up to the basket and then get a layup. And for some reason, he's just not doing it very often. But getting back to it, I think Najee does it. And Najee makes it once he gets to the rim, unlike Hardy. And I think it's just quite a weapon to have when Luka goes out of the game.
Yeah. I don't know enough. I make pretty bombastic proclamations when I'm pissy, but I've been talking for the better part of 2 hours now, including the end of the game where I was just like watching that live. And I think you were watching with us, where it's just like, come on.
I wasn't, because I can't watch the games.
Oh, the ESPN game. Yeah. No, that's right.
I mean, I can, but you'll be 10 seconds ahead of me or whatever. And so then it bothers the shit out of me that you guys are like, yeah, 3-pointer. And I'm like, oh, shit. I didn't.
Does the League Pass work for you? Guys, we're talking about stream. We're talking about playback, by the way. If you've not joined our live playbacks, we have a good time talking about this. We're joined by David Trink and Matthew, who are both Mavs Moneyball contributors who don't show up on the podcast a lot, but they're very different than Josh and very different than me. We just have a good time talking about the game. So you guys should consider hanging out with us.
I didn't test it again, but when I tried watching the other day, the last game that was a national game,
the national games may not work, but the regular games, like the League Pass games, should.
Yeah. Oh, they do. They do normally. Yeah, I'm right there at the same. I'm a little bit ahead of you guys on the League Pass games.
Okay.
Which is fine. Fine. I just don't want to be behind you guys.
I hear you. Well, thanks for hanging out with us tonight, okay?
I appreciate you. Like I said, because of Angry Kirk, I don't have to be angry. You took care of it for me.
All right, man. Talk
You're
soon.
the best.
All right, we're going to go to my man, Sudoshan.
Hey.
The party. How was the game? Sudoshan was at the game tonight, and you have flown in for like 9 different reasons why you're in the United States. Tell us what's up, man. How you doing?
Nah, I mean, it was a fun game. All frustrations aside, I thought I'd be a lot angrier, considering the way that it ended. But I mean, yeah, it's hard to be that annoyed after that game.
Tell me why, because I'm real fucking annoyed.
I mean, I think on the watch party channel, the moment I heard Tony Brothers, I'd sort of just pinged it. A little worried about this game, and I think it's nice to. I think Jason Kidd hit the nail on the head, saying that they're starting way too slowly. I mean, they're so casual in the first quarter. It's kind of scary. And I get why you're a little annoyed about Luka is that he's now just trying the highlight pass every time. It's like you're trying to make SportsCenter every play.
I don't think he's trying to do that, but I there's something with the pat. Like there's almost. It's so odd. The social media conversation can facilitate all over the place with Luka. Yeah. And I don't like it when people are like, Luka needs to get dudes more involved. Tonight was a good example of the first half when Luka was trying to get dudes more involved. He didn't do very well.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, there was like one play where he drove to the basket and then and basically tried a behind the back pass. But instead of going across the court, it went behind. And I think Grayson Allen or someone like that just stole the ball and then went up. Like, the Suns had 15 points of turnovers, which was 15-7 or something like that, which in a game with tight margins is quite a big deal in that sense. So yeah, I think everyone's still very casual in to start the game, but they came out in the third quarter and it was brilliant. They just blitzed the Suns and they could do nothing about it. And that was fun actually, because that's when you could feel the energy in the stadium completely picking up.
The second half was much better in that regard. So let me ask you something. Was that your first NBA game?
Live? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic.
That was, I mean, yeah, it was fun in that regard. Although the section that I was in was kind of wasn't that enthusiastic. There were just two of us. This guy I was sitting next to. It was only the two of us who were randomly yelling out, like when the PA guy was asking all fans to yell defense or let's go Mavs or anything like that. It was only the two of us yelling. The rest of them were just sitting calmly and quietly until the end of the game.
So where were your seats again? You said this, but I was like doing two things at once.
Oh, 9.
Fun, man. Really good time. What other observations do you have from being there live?
I mean, yeah, it got really loud towards the end. That was fun to watch until the final play, which was kind of like, it was 22-23 Mavs at their best. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Interesting.
Which is really funny because this team is actually good at ATOs.
Yes.
But considering it was 0.8 on the clock, I'm sure they could have got a better play out there.
I don't think they meant Luka to catch the ball out there. Like, I want to be critical of Kidd and I want to be critical of that, but I just have to repeatedly emphasize that you're not getting a 15-footer in the middle of the lane. Like, that's not happening. And
not with less than
the 35-footer element is a absolutely fair criticism of, and I think everybody's made that at this point.
Yeah, I think, I mean, so I was rewatching it because I recorded the play thinking that, if something dramatic happens, then I have the video. Yeah. But I mean, you could see that they denied Clay off of it first, so it finally went to Luka. So it was just a heave basically at that point. And Luka was off on those all night long. Even in the pregame ones, he was so badly off. So there was no chance he was hitting one of those.
That's killing me. It's just killing me with some of this. He's going to be fine. And I think it's much more important to finish the MVP race strong than start it strong. But I'm also like, please do something crazy. Do something to where I can yell at everyone. Like everybody's favorite basketball quasi troll, my friend Matt Moore, spent a significant portion of his day yelling about Patrick Mahomes being the MVP and like yelling about Lamar. And I finally sent him a message where I was like, this is how we sound about Luka Doncic, isn't it?
Yeah. But although while I agree with Kidd in how the Mavs are starting games, I do not agree with him just calling out the bench because his rotations have been abysmal.
He's trying too much and getting too cute.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. And this was one of those things that I'd written in the Things to Dread piece, is that I don't think this is a standard season where you can experiment a little bit and then start off with 500 or sub 500 basketball. I think this is just one where you just have to like play your best team and then work people into the rotation as much as possible. Like, give them the games against the Bulls where you work out the rotations. But when you play the Suns, you do not. And I know I've messaged this about twice or thrice on the Slack, is that you cannot play Kessler Edwards over Quentin Grimes. That is idiotic.
Yep.
And yeah, and I thought Grimes was actually good when he played because
he wasn't terrible at minimum. It's kind of like I thought he was fine.
Yeah, and the one thing he actually gave you was energy and defense, which is something that team really needed. if I was in Kid's position, I would give him Dinwiddie's minutes or a portion of Dinwiddie's minutes. So, I mean, I really don't get the kind of trust and faith that I know that you guys were discussing this a little while ago. Is that I don't get the trust in Dinwiddie. He's not the Dinwiddie from 3 seasons ago. He's basically just an average player at this point.
Yep, at best.
Yeah. So, I mean, you traded for Grimes. There's a reason why you traded for him in the Tim Hardaway Jr. deal. It's not a throwaway. I'm sure he was targeted. So, I mean, you might as well at least play the guy, particularly when you're down 3 players in your rotation.
Well, they'll figure it out. They'll be fine. I really, really, really wanted them to get off to a good start.
I don't think that's in the cards for us as Mavs fans.
That's probably right. It's probably right.
And the scary part is we have Denver and Golden State coming up.
Now that Golden State game is going to be the game to watch. The Denver game, if Lively's not playing, I don't know what I'm going to, because it's just like you need 2 good guys to shove at Jokic, and
Jokic,
Dwight Powell is going to no. Ooh.
I mean, Jokic is gonna if Lively is not there, Jokic is gonna abuse that team unless they go like. I mean, the option to that would be to go super small and play like maybe Najee at the 5, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I'm really glad you joined, and I'm sorry your first NBA game was a loss, but I'm glad you got to visit Dallas.
No, it's fun. I was actually going to say I'll take the L for the game because I have this rule that I don't wear team gear when the Mavs play because that's my superstition.
Sure.
Because they mostly always lose, and unfortunately, you can't really show up in the stadium for a Mavs game without wearing Mavs gear. So,
right, it's hard. It's very difficult.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was going up against a really hard superstition. So there was no way the Mavs were going to win in any case.
That's right. All right, man. We'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah. Take care.
All right. Okay, so my man, there was one more. Tyron was in the chat, and then he bounced. I hope he comes back for another show. Like Pseudo-Shan said, the Mavericks play the Nuggets on Sunday. So day off, then they go play in the altitude. I hope they do well. We'll be back after that show. We're going to be back for pretty much every show. I'm thinking, just kind of looking ahead, so the Mavs play Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I will be missing anything we do next Saturday. Now, I know you guys will probably say, really don't think we're going to be missing you, Kirk. But that's just sort of the way it goes. Tyron, I shout out. I'm just glad you're here, Tyron. I miss hearing from you. Okay, I'm going to go to bed. Actually, I'm going to post all this stuff and then go to bed at like 12:30. Everybody be good. Thanks so much for hanging out. Love all you guys who are hanging out. Appreciate the additional super chats from Henry. We have one from Paul Armstrong. We have one from Glenn. Everyone be good. Really appreciate your support. Go Mavs.